Aaron Neville's voice carried him from the housing projects of New Orleans to a penthouse in the heart of Greenwich Village. But behind the five-time Grammy winner's success lies a story far more complex. That same man who charmed the world with Don't Know Much also spent decades hooked on heroin, starting at just 16 years old. Now, at 82, Neville lives quietly with his wife Sarah Ann Friedman, reflecting on the faith that saved him, the secrets he's kept, and the fortune he's built. But what really happened inside his Greenwich Village penthouse? And what does his net worth in 2025 reveal about his incredible journey? Stay with us to find out. What is Aaron Neville's net worth? As of 2025, Aaron Neville's net worth is estimated at around $8 to $10 million, a fortune built over 6 decades of music, touring, and personal reinvention. Best known as the angel-voiced tenor of the Neville brothers and a Grammy-winning solo artist, Neville transformed his raw New Orleans roots into a global career that not only earned him acclaim, but also considerable financial success. Neville's journey began in the 1960s with his breakout single, Tell It Like It Is, a chart-topping hit that established him as a soul powerhouse. Over the years, his distinctive voice landed him in demand for collaborations across R&B, pop, and country. His duets with Linda Ronstadt in the late 1980s, especially Don't Know Much, became international successes, selling millions of copies and adding a steady stream of royalties to his income. To this day, streaming platforms and licensing deals keep those classics financially relevant. Touring has been another cornerstone of Neville's wealth. As both a solo act and with the Neville brothers, he performed for decades on the world stage, from jazz festivals to sold-out arenas. At his peak, Neville could command concert fees in the tens of thousands per night. Even into his later years, his loyal fan base ensured that tours remained lucrative, providing a dependable income alongside royalties. Neville has also built wealth through savvy real estate moves. In recent years, he and his wife sold their Greenwich Village penthouse in Manhattan, earning more than $1 million over their original purchase price just 4 years earlier. The sale, which went for above asking price, reflected not only New York's hot property market, but also Neville's ability to turn his lifestyle choices into financial wins. Unlike many entertainers who diversify into business empires, Neville has primarily stuck to his music. His salary has effectively come from recording contracts, publishing rights, and live appearances. He also receives income from his memoir, Tell It Like It Is, My Story, which adds literary earnings to his portfolio while deepening his legacy. Aaron Neville's wealth reflects a life of resilience. From the streets of New Orleans to international stages, from battling decades of addiction to finding peace in love and faith, he has turned pain into art, and art into financial security. Inside Aaron Neville's Greenwich Village penthouse. One of Neville's most notable assets was his terraced penthouse in Greenwich Village, Manhattan, which he listed for $2.5 million. He and his wife, celebrity photographer Sarah A. Friedman, purchased the duplex in October 2014 for $1.44 million, ultimately making over $1 million in profit when they sold it just 4 years later. The penthouse is a gem of urban sophistication. Spread across 2 levels, the apartment features Brazilian teak floors that gleam under the natural light, more than 40 feet of custom cabinetry, and 5 walk-in closets fitted to perfection. The bathrooms are lined with radiant heated marble tiles, offering spa-like comfort. The living room, anchored by a wall-mounted television and a velvet sectional, flows into a cozy dining area and a sleek galley kitchen equipped with snow-white countertops and stainless steel appliances. Upstairs, the jewel of the property is a 400-square-foot planted and irrigated terrace, a private sanctuary overlooking the rooftops of New York City. For Neville, it was a rare retreat where music, faith, and family could intersect in one of the world's busiest neighborhoods. This wasn't Neville's only real estate move. After Hurricane Katrina destroyed his eastern New Orleans home, he relocated to Brentwood, Tennessee, where he purchased a 5,450-square-foot house for $755,000 in 2005, selling it 3 years later for $775,000. He later returned to Louisiana, settling in Covington, where he bought a 5,000-square-foot home in 2008 for $460,000, eventually selling at a small loss in 2013 for $400,000. But how did he build his success? Let's look back at Aaron Neville's journey. Aaron Neville's road to fame was anything but ordinary. Born in New Orleans, his voice carried a soulful falsetto that stood out from the very beginning. Yet it wasn't until 1960 that he first reached audiences beyond his hometown with the single Over You. While the song introduced him to the industry, true breakthrough success came 7 years later. In 1967, Neville recorded Tell It Like It Is, a collaboration with his school friend George Davis and bandleader Lee Diamond. The single stormed the charts, holding the number one spot on Billboard's R&B chart for 5 weeks and climbing to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, second only to I'm a Believer by the Monkees. The track sold over 1 million copies and earned a gold disc, officially marking Neville as a rising star. Despite that milestone, Neville's career slowed for nearly 2 decades. He released sporadic projects, but it wasn't until 1986 that he resurfaced with a full-length record, Orchid in the Storm, an independent album that reminded listeners of his unmistakable voice. Still, no one could predict what was coming next. In 1989, Neville's fortunes changed forever when he teamed up with Linda Ronstadt for Cry Like a Rainstorm, Howl Like the Wind. The album produced 4 duets, including the Grammy-winning blockbusters Don't Know Much and All My Life. Don't Know Much reached number 2 on the Hot 100 and was certified gold, while the album itself went triple platinum in the U.S. with over 3 million copies sold. For Neville, it wasn't just a comeback, it was a rebirth. The momentum carried into the 1990s. With Ronstadt's support, he released Warm Your Heart in 1991. The album included his iconic cover of Everybody Plays the Fool, which soared to number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. The record went platinum by 1997, proving Neville wasn't just surviving the industry, he was thriving. By 1993, Neville was expanding his sound and audience even further. His album, The Grand Tour, not only sold platinum, but also introduced him to the world of country music. The lead single, Don't Take Away My Heaven, reached number 4 on the adult contemporary chart, while his rendition of George Jones's classic The Grand Tour brought him to the Billboard Country chart and earned a Grammy nomination for Best Male Country Vocal Performance in 1994. He followed this achievement with Aaron Neville's Soulful Christmas, another platinum success, cementing his place as a versatile artist who could bridge soul, pop, and country without losing his roots. Aaron Neville's Crossroads, country, pop, gospel, and survival. By the mid-1990s, Aaron Neville was no longer just a soul singer with a distinctive falsetto. He had become one of the most versatile and genre-defying artists of his generation. His next big step came in 1994 when he participated in the ambitious project Rhythm, Country, and Blues, a compilation album that paired legendary R&B singers with country stars for duets on classic songs. Neville was teamed with Trisha Yearwood for a heartfelt rendition of Patsy Cline's timeless ballad I Fall to Pieces. The collaboration was more than just a meeting of voices, it was history in the making. Their duet won the Grammy Award for Best Country Collaboration with Vocals at the 37th Annual Grammy Awards. The win placed Neville in a rare position. He became one of the very few African-American artists to take home a Grammy in the country music category, underscoring both his adaptability and the respect he commanded across genres. That same year, Neville showed his lighter side to a younger audience when he appeared on Sesame Street, singing I Don't Want to Live on the Moon as a duet with Ernie, introducing his voice to an entirely new generation of fans. Neville carried his momentum into 1995 with the release of The Tattooed Heart, an album filled with covers of classics by Bill Withers and Chris Christopherson. The project resonated with audiences and went gold, proving that Neville could breathe new life into well-known songs while keeping his own style intact. 2 years later, in 1997, he leaned into pop with To Make Me Who I Am, an album that featured contributions from hitmakers Babyface and Diane Warren, alongside 2 new duets with Linda Ronstadt. Their rendition of The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face showcased the same vocal chemistry that had once dominated the charts. At the turn of the millennium, Neville shifted again, this time toward gospel. His 2000 release, Devotion, soared to the top of the U.S. Gospel Albums chart, reflecting both his deep faith and his ability to connect spiritually with listeners. 3 years later, he made yet another bold move with Nature Boy, the Standards album, released under Verve Records. The album climbed to number 1 on the U.S. Jazz Albums chart and featured selections from the Great American Songbook. Among them was another duet with Ronstadt, The Very Thought of You, which further proved that their partnership transcended genres and decades. But just as Neville's career seemed to flourish across new territories, disaster struck. In August 2005, Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, destroying Neville's home in the city's eastern district. He evacuated before the storm hit, first relocating to Memphis, then visiting Austin, Texas, where he stayed with his friend Clifford Antone, before finally moving to Nashville. The tragedy shook him deeply, and music became his outlet once again. On September 2, 2005, he performed Randy Newman's Louisiana 1927 during NBC's televised A Concert for Hurricane Relief, delivering one of the night's most emotional performances. He followed it with a moving rendition of Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come at the New York benefit concert, From the Big Apple to the Big Easy. The displacement was profound. When Neville did not return to New Orleans in the years immediately following Katrina, even the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, which traditionally ended with the Neville brothers, was forced to break tradition. But by 2008, the family band reunited on stage, bringing Jazz Fest back to its roots. Later that year, Neville returned more permanently to Louisiana, settling in the quiet suburb of Covington, just north of New Orleans. From soul classics to Super Bowl stages. In late 2005, as Aaron Neville was rebuilding his life in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, his career entered a new chapter. He signed with Sony BMG's newly launched Burgundy Records, a label designed to highlight legacy artists. For Neville, the partnership offered the chance to pay tribute to the voices who had shaped him. The result was Bring It On Home, the Soul Classics, released on September 19, 2006. The album was produced by Stuart Levine and featured Neville's interpretations of songs by Otis Redding, Marvin Gaye, Curtis Mayfield, Sam Cooke, and other giants of soul. What made the project stand out was its star-studded roster of collaborators. Neville shared the microphone with Chaka Khan, Mavis Staples, and instrumentalists like Chris Botti on trumpet and David Sanborn on saxophone. His brother, Art Neville, also joined the sessions, lending both family and New Orleans authenticity to the record. The first single, a reimagining of the Impressions' 1963 hit It's All Right, reminded audiences that Neville's falsetto was as timeless as the music he revered. But Neville's influence wasn't confined to the recording studio. Over the decades, his voice had become woven into American culture, through television, film, and some of the nation's biggest sporting events. In 1990, he performed the national anthem at Super Bowl 24 in his hometown of New Orleans, a moment of pride for the city. 16 years later, after Katrina's devastation, he returned to the Super Bowl stage for Super Bowl 40 in 2006, joining Aretha Franklin and Dr. John in a moving tribute to New Orleans that was hailed as one of the most emotional renditions of the anthem in NFL history. His earlier anthem performances at WWF's SummerSlam 1993 and WCW's Spring Stampede 1994 proved his crossover appeal, while his rendition in the Robert De Niro and Wesley Snipes film The Fan cemented his reputation as a go-to voice for stirring patriotism on screen. Neville's versatility extended even to children's entertainment and commercial jingles. He sang the theme music for Fisher-Price Little People and recorded songs for the educational series' 6th volume, Discovering Seasons. In 1992, his warm falsetto introduced a new version of Cotton for Cotton Incorporated's long-running campaign, launched during the Summer Olympics. Years earlier, in 1988, he had contributed to Stay Awake, various interpretations of music from vintage Disney films, recording a playful take on the Mickey Mouse March. That same year, he and his brothers provided background vocals for Jimmy Buffett's album Hot Water, harmonizing on tracks like Great Heart and Smart Woman, in a real short skirt. Neville also embraced the role of cultural ambassador for New Orleans music. In 2005, he appeared in the documentary Make It Funky, which traced the Crescent City's enormous influence on American popular music. Alongside his brothers, he performed Fire on the Bayou, underscoring the family's central place in the city's musical history. And in a surprising turn, Neville even stepped into daytime television. On October 27, 2006, he guest-starred in an episode of the soap opera The Young and the Restless, where he performed soulful renditions of Stand By Me and Ain't No Sunshine, both drawn from his then-new album Bring It On Home, The Soul Classics. Aaron Neville's later years, honors, tributes, and a farewell to the road. By 2008, Aaron Neville had already lived several musical lifetimes, but he continued to find new ways to share his voice. That year, he released Gold, a 2-disc retrospective album that showcased the breadth of his hits across decades. Alongside it came Christmas and Hits Duos, a collection blending his classic tracks with traditional carols. From that album, the tender ballad Christmas Prayer gained special attention when it was featured on an episode of ER titled The High Holiday, bringing Neville's soulful spirit into one of television's most beloved dramas. The following year, Neville returned to one of his most powerful themes, resilience and hope. In 2009, he joined The Mount, Zion Mass Choir, for a stirring rendition of Sam Cooke's civil rights anthem A Change Is Gonna Come, released on the compilation album Oh Happy Day. The performance reminded listeners that Neville's voice was not only beautiful, but also deeply tied to messages of faith and justice. By 2010, Neville continued strengthening his ties to his New Orleans musical roots. He reunited with his brother Art Neville to perform alongside the Meters, the legendary funk band that had been central to the city's sound. It was a reminder that while Aaron had traveled far musically, his foundation was always tied to the rhythms of home. In 2011, Neville became the featured artist for the 100th anniversary celebration of the University of Memphis. At the Cannon Center for the Performing Arts, his presence underscored the event's significance, bridging generations of students, faculty, and music lovers. That same year, he expanded his reach globally, touring New Zealand with the Blind Boys of Alabama and gospel legend Mavis Staples, both acts that mirrored Neville's own blending of sacred and soulful traditions. 2 years later, in 2013, Neville released one of his most personal projects. My True Story, put out by Blue Note Records, was a collection of 12 doo-wop classics that had shaped his youth. Produced by Don Was and Keith Richards, the album featured support from musicians like Benmont Tench of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. For Neville, it was both a homecoming and a tribute to the music that had first made him fall in love with singing. The project was so impactful that in 2015, Keith Richards selected the title track as one of his personal Desert Island discs. That same year, Neville was awarded the Leotar Medal, one of the oldest and most prestigious honors in the Catholic Church, recognizing his contributions to faith and culture. As he entered his 80s, Neville began to slow down. In May 2021, at the age of 80, he announced his retirement from touring, though he made clear that he might still record music or appear at special events. For a man whose voice had carried him across genres, continents, and decades, the decision marked the end of a monumental chapter. Yet even in retirement, recognition of his artistry continued. In 2023, Rolling Stone ranked Aaron Neville at number 104 on its list of the 200 greatest singers of all time, cementing his place among the most iconic voices ever recorded. Aaron Neville's personal life, family, faith, and identity. Aaron Neville's story has always been tied to the city that shaped him, New Orleans, Louisiana. Born into a family of mixed heritage, with African-American, white, and Choctaw roots, Neville grew up surrounded by the vibrant cultural traditions that made the Crescent City a musical capital. His uncle, George Big Chief Jolly Landry, was the lead singer of the Mardi Gras Indian group the Wild Chupatulas, and that influence of rhythm, ritual, and performance would ripple through Neville's own career with the Neville brothers. One of the most recognizable parts of Neville's image is the small sword tattoo etched on his left cheek. He got it at just 16 years old, a rebellious act that earned him his father's wrath. In a 2019 interview with Billboard, Neville remembered how his father tried to scrub it off with Brillo pads and Octagon soap. "The skin came off," he said, "but the tattoo stayed." Decades later, when Neville released The Tattooed Heart in 1995, he returned to a tattoo parlor for a promotional event and had the old mark freshened up and outlined again, transforming a youthful mistake into a lifelong emblem of resilience. Neville's personal life was also marked by deep and enduring relationships. On January 10, 1959, he married Joel Rue Neville, his childhood sweetheart. Their marriage lasted nearly 50 years, producing 4 children: Ernestine, Aaron Fred Jr., Ivan, and Jason. Both Ivan and Jason would go on to become musicians in their own right, carrying forward the Neville family legacy. The marriage endured through Aaron's struggles with addiction, the challenges of fame, and the demands of a life in music. When Joel passed away in 2007 after a long illness, Neville described the loss as one of the most painful chapters of his life. But love found him again in an unexpected place. In 2008, during a People magazine photo shoot, Neville met photographer Sarah Ann Friedman. The two formed a bond that quickly deepened, and on November 13, 2010, they were married in New York City. Friedman became not only his partner in life, but also a source of stability during his later years, sharing in his triumphs and helping him through moments of vulnerability. Faith has always been Neville's anchor. A devout Catholic, he carries a deep devotion to St. Jude, the patron saint of hopeless causes. He has often credited his survival, through decades of addiction, hardship, and loss, to St. Jude's intercession. As a constant reminder of that devotion, Neville wears a St. Jude medal as a left earring, a small but powerful symbol of the faith that guided him through the darkest moments of his life. Aaron Neville reveals how he became addicted to heroin at 16. With the release of his memoir, Tell It Like It Is, My Story, Aaron Neville has decided to do exactly what the title promises: hold nothing back. The 5-time Grammy winner and Neville Brothers frontman, known for his silky R&B classics like Tell It Like It Is and beloved duets such as Don't Know Much with Linda Ronstadt, reveals a life that has been as turbulent as his tenor is smooth. In the book, the 82-year-old New Orleans native traces his journey from the Calliope housing projects to global fame, recounting both the triumphs and the dark valleys. He writes candidly about an early stint in jail for stealing cars and his decades-long struggle with heroin addiction, a battle that nearly destroyed him before faith and love helped him rebuild. Neville also shares the story behind one of his most recognizable features, the dagger tattoo on his cheek. For my 16th birthday, I gave myself a present that has lasted all my life, he writes. Sitting on the back steps of his parents' house, a friend tied 2 needles to a matchstick and inked the mark onto Neville's face. Some people see it as a cross, he recalls. It was one thought away from being a skull and crossbones. Don't ask me why I did it. I guess stupid was set in place at that age. It was also at 16 that he tried heroin for the first time, curiosity that quickly turned into a habit. I was playing gigs and making money, Neville recalls. I was an inquisitive kid, always looking for the next sensation, the next adventure. For me, heroin was just one more thing like that. But the consequences were immediate. The first time you do heroin, your brain is hooked even if your body isn't craving it yet, he writes. It turns from curiosity into a yearning, and then before you know it, you're in the game, running and looking for it everywhere. The addiction dragged Neville into dark places, including a New York City basement boiler room where he remembers sharing paraphernalia and praying, "Dear Lord, please get me out of here." It wasn't until the 1980s, after he and his brothers had landed a new record deal, that he decided to enter rehab. I drew a picture of myself on a cross with syringes as the nails, he writes. It was killing me slowly. I was 40 years old, and I hadn't been clean since junior high school. Neville says he never touched heroin again after that first rehab stint, though years later he briefly struggled with prescription opioids. Now sober, healthy, and living on the farm he shares with his wife, photographer Sarah A. Friedman, he explains why he's opening up at last. It's time, he tells people. I didn't want anyone else writing it. I was there. I know Aaron Neville's lifelong commitment to charity and giving back. Beyond his legendary voice and decades of hit records, Aaron Neville has quietly built a legacy of giving. The New Orleans-born singer has long believed that his survival through poverty, addiction, and fame was a gift he was meant to share. Over the years, Neville has devoted both time and money to causes that reflect his roots, his faith, and his deep sense of gratitude. One of his most visible commitments has been to Musicians Village, a project founded by Branford Marsalis and Harry Connick Jr. in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. The initiative, developed under Habitat for Humanity, helped rebuild homes for displaced musicians and their families in New Orleans. Neville contributed financially to the project, with donations and fundraising appearances helping the village raise more than $5 million in its early years. He has also been an active supporter of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, an institution closely tied to his Catholic devotion to St. Jude. Neville has performed at multiple benefit concerts, helping generate over $1 million in event proceeds to support pediatric cancer research and patient care. In addition, Neville lent his voice to disaster relief efforts after Katrina, performing at high-profile events such as From the Big Apple to the Big Easy, which raised over $9 million for Gulf Coast recovery. His emotional renditions of songs like Louisiana 1927 and A Change Is Gonna Come became symbols of hope during one of the darkest chapters in his city's history. Neville has also participated in charity albums and compilations, donating royalties to organizations including the American Red Cross and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. For Neville, giving back has never been about recognition. It has been about faith, family, and the city that shaped him. As he once said, "Everything I've been given, I want to give back double." Aaron Neville's journey proves that success is not only measured by hit records or real estate profits, but also by resilience, faith, and generosity. From his Greenwich Village penthouse to his battles with addiction and his devotion to charity, his story is one of survival and triumph. But what do you think is the most inspiring part of Aaron Neville's life? His music, his personal comeback, or the way he gives back? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.